Hello and welcome back to the course on blockchain. And today we're talking about soft forks and hard forks. So we already mentioned forks a couple of times. The most recent time was when we spoke about the DAO Attack and how they solved the problem by creating a hard fork. So let's have a look at what that means. What is a hard fork? What's a soft fork? And what are some examples? So this is what happened back then. Ethereum in July 2016 at block number 1919999, so 1,919,999, what they did is they introduced new rules that would allow to reverse the logic in the contract that allowed the attacker to steal the ether from the DAO. And what that meant is after that, that turned into a hard fork, and basically we'll talk about exactly what a hard fork is, but after that the Ethereum chain continued and they reversed the funds and returned them back to the people that contributed them and closed down the DAO. At the same time, there were people, as we discussed, that were unhappy with this decision because they said that it's very sad that the money was stolen, but at the same time, rules are rules. If we said that contracts are binding on the blockchain, then they have to be such, and it's your fault that you made a mistake in the code, and we don't agree to changing it. So some miners decided not to go ahead with that, not to change their software to the new hard fork. So hard fork basically means there's a new software, a new upgrade to the blockchain software, which allows for certain things that previously were not allowed, that were not possible. And so what happened then is the chain, those miners that continued mining the old way that didn't upgrade, they split off. So they split off into their own version, and that version is now called Ethereum Classic. So right now there's two. You can look them up on the exchange. You'll see that there's Ethereum and there's Ethereum Classic, and that's the reason why it happened, because there was a DAO attack and some people didn't agree to bending the rules to returning money back into back from such an attack. And so majority went with this, but some still went with this. And so you can see that Ethereum Classic is traded as actually quite a big cryptocurrency. Another example of a hard fork is Bitcoin. Bitcoin in July 2017. In July 2017, on 20th July 2017, Bitcoin accepted segregated witness, but that happened as a soft fork, and that happened on block number 476,768. That's where Bitcoin accepted the soft fork for segregated witness. We've already touched on segregated witness before. And the interesting thing, it was a soft fork, so there's no reason for this to happen. This doesn't happen in soft forks, and we'll understand exactly why in a second. In the next couple of slides, we'll understand why. But in a soft fork, that doesn't happen. As you can see, everything went smoothly. However, there were still people who were unhappy with this decision to do segregated witness, because they thought that doing segregated witness is a way, favors people who want to treat Bitcoin as a digital investment or rather than a transactional currency, because segregated witness doesn't increase the block size. So there were people who before segregated witness were arguing that we shouldn't have, remember segregated witness, what it did is it stripped out the signature from the block and put it into its own messaging system, meaning that now effectively you can put 2 megabytes or between 2 and 4 megabytes of transactions, or 2 and 4 megabytes of transactions into a block, even though the block size is still 1 megabyte, because out of those 2 and 4, the signatures will be stripped, and the core transactions themselves, they're only going to take up still less than 1 megabyte. But there were people before segregated witness, like before here, who were saying they were opposing segregated witness, and they were saying that, look, segregated witness is like a patch solution, is a temporary solution to a big problem we have. Let's increase the block size to 8 megabytes, and let's have, that way we just can put more transactions into a block anyway. Let's do that. Let's increase the block size. And so the majority of the Bitcoin network and community said, no, we want to keep we want to go for segregated witness option, so they did the soft fork here, and everything went nice and well, but people who were opposing segregated witness, they were still unhappy, and they decided to just by themselves to do that upgrade to 8 megabytes to increase the block size. And so what happened, this happened on 1st of August, so this was 20th of July, this was 1st of August, not that far away, like 10 days. What happened, so that was soft fork. Then on block 478558, what happened is Bitcoin continued, but there were some miners who switched to Bitcoin Cash. This new system was called Bitcoin Cash. And why was it Bitcoin Cash? Well, because that's just the name they chose. Well, the difference here is that on this version, the block size is increased. It's 8 megabytes, whereas on this version, it's still 1 megabyte. And that's the difference why they changed. So some miners started doing this, and that inevitably the chain split into two. That happened in August 2017. And then, interestingly enough, so if we move this here, so interestingly enough, the Ethereum networks just continued, but this was in 2016. So this is how this one grew that way, this one grew that way. But in the Bitcoin world, Bitcoin continued, but actually on 24th of October 2017, so not that many months afterwards, at block number 491407, another hard fork happened. So another hard fork, what happened was people were unhappy with this whole ASIC situation. Remember, we were talking about ASIC mining and that they completely made GPUs redundant. Well, some people were unhappy with that, and they decided we want to go back to GPU mining. And so at that block, they changed their software to make it ASIC resistant, so that ASIC miners could no longer mine it, and therefore they went to Bitcoin Gold, and that happened in October. So this is actually for the soft fork, 20th of July. This happened 1st of August, the hard fork to Bitcoin Cash, and 24th of October happened the hard fork to Bitcoin Gold. So, and there's always reasons. So here there was a reason for the DAO Attack, so they had to change the software to revert the money. Here, Bitcoin Cash was not happy with SegWit, so they changed their software to increase block size to 4 megabytes, and because these are not compatible, inevitably the chain split. And here the reason was these miners were not happy with mining with ASICs, because ASICs are very expensive devices. They wanted to just continue mining with GPUs like back in the old days, and so they just split off and they changed their software to become ASIC resistant, like Ethereum hashing is ASIC resistant. And so they split off into Bitcoin Gold. As you can see, this can happen very freely because it is a distributed system. So the participants decide its future for themselves. And if somebody's unhappy with something, and there's enough support for that cause, they can just split off into their own network and start, their own blockchain. No, there is no central authority to say, no, we're not doing this, or this is not allowed. No, they can do whatever they want. And that's the beauty of the system. And so maybe after some time, some of these forks might be turn out to be people stop liking them, people don't want to mine them, and then they'll just die off, or maybe they'll continue growing, or maybe they'll grow something big. Like Bitcoin Cash is pretty big right now. So that's how this thing works. Couple things to mention here. So first of all, we'll talk about soft forks just now, and we'll talk about hard forks as well. The thing I wanted to mention here is that if you own funds before a hard fork like this, first of all, let's start with this. Hard forks don't have to result in a split. So they only result in a split if there's people who are unhappy with certain things. So for instance, in Bitcoin Cash, the people wanted to go to 8 megabytes. So if the whole Bitcoin network just went to 8 megabytes, everybody would go down this route, and it would be just called Bitcoin, but it would go like that way with 8 megabytes. And so the fork, a hard fork, it's a term that is references software. So they're forking the software, not forking the chain. So there's a soft fork of the software. There's a hard fork of the software here, but as you can see, it results in a physical fork of the chain simply because there are people who aren't happy with the way the hard fork works. So in reality, this is the hard fork. The software is the hard fork. But what we do see is we actually see a physical fork because some people chose to stay with the old version. So that's important to understand that forking it's a GitHub common term that is referred to making a copy of the software. And if it's a soft fork, we'll discuss it's one thing. Hard fork, we also will discuss it's a different thing. But it just happens that if there are people who are unhappy with the hard fork, then we'll see the physical split in the chain. So the term originates from what we do with the software, not what we do with the chain. The other thing is that if there is a physical split in the chain, like we see here, if you own funds at the start, like here for instance, of Ethereum, if you own Ether, and there's a hard fork like that, which actually results in split of the chain, then you will keep owning. So let's say you own 100 Ether here, you will own 100 Ether here, but you'll also get 100 Ether Classic. Why is that? Well, because the Ethereum chain is this one, but the Ethereum Classic chain is not just this little bit, it's this whole bit all the way up to here. So Ethereum Classic actually has the exact same history up until this block as Ethereum. So any transactions, any mined currency that happened before the split will be present in both chains. And that explains how the hacker could steal, somewhere here they stole from the DAO, they stole 50 million worth of Ether, and then that amount got reverted back to the people of the DAO, the investors of the DAO. They got the money back, but then the hacker also walked away with 50 million worth of Ether Classic in the end. How did that happen? Well, because of this fork. Obviously, when the hack happened, like it was $150 million. The hack happened, but it was all in Ether. Another thing to understand is that it was all in Ether. So as soon as the hack happened, the price for Ether dropped because, there was uncertainty. And so then it also split. So the prices changed here. So maybe at the time of the fork, it wasn't as much as, he actually walked away with $67 million. It wasn't as much as that. That's according to the Bloomberg article that we mentioned previously in the previous tutorial. So at some point, the Bloomberg article measured it to be $67 million. It doesn't mean it was like right there it was that amount. But the point is, that's in terms of dollars. But in terms of Ether, yes, the amount gets duplicated. So the amount that was hacked got duplicated. Here it got reverted back to the owners. And here it stayed with the attacker because the new rules were not adopted by Ethereum Classic. In terms of Bitcoin, same thing. If you own Bitcoin here, if you owned one Bitcoin before 20th of July, not before 20th of July, before 1st of August 2017, because 20th of July was over here. This label should be over here. This is 1st of August 2017. If you owned one Bitcoin before 1st of August 2017, so it's anywhere here, then right now you will have one Bitcoin Cash, you'll have one Bitcoin Gold, and you'll have one Bitcoin. That's how these things work because, again, the whole history is shared. So if you owned, let's say, one Bitcoin, if you purchased a Bitcoin between 1st of August and 24th of October, somewhere in here, right now you'll have 0 Bitcoin Cash unless you purchase it separately, but you'll also have one Bitcoin and one Bitcoin Gold.